You're listening to If You Know You Grow the podcast. I'm your host, Chantel Braley, and I have over 15 years experience in marketing, e-commerce, and really all things creative. I'm so excited to take you behind the scenes of thriving businesses, hear from amazing industry experts, and chat a little bit about the mindset that it takes to really succeed in this industry. Please follow, like, and subscribe so that I can continue creating amazing content for you and sharing these incredible stories. Let's get into it. So this week we're going to shift away from the normal marketing and e-com conversation because I do know that a lot of, mindset and lifestyle questions often come up. And I always have that concept of I'm going to record really far in advance because I want episodes to be batched. But then I really sit in the reality of I want to let you know what's happening in real time in my life and how I'm really feeling. So this whole episode is basically going to be on the concept of friendships and adult friendships because I really feel that that's an area of my life that I've nailed. And I know that's because of values that have been instilled in me by my mom, by my grandmother, by people around me. But my friendships have completely transformed my life. And I know that making adult friendships is really, really fucking tough. And going through change is really tough. And I am so grateful that some of the people that I have are still the same people that I grew up with or people that I have had in my life now for 17 years. So I've now been in Australia for 17 years. So I thought it would be good for me to share a little bit about that origin story, but then things that I've learned about friendships, because I also still have friendships that are new and that are fresh that feel like they've been there for forever. The first thing I noticed with friendships with people who, if you're in your late 20s or 30s or 40s, is there's this weird necessary connection to keep friendships from high school or from earlier in your life. And I am still best friends with my best friend from high school, Denise. We met in year 9. So in America, high school starts in year 9. So we went to different middle schools. We met in year 9 and I had purple Converse and she had green Converse. And I still remember this so intimately. And we became best friends. And that friendship continued all throughout high school, even though we were in very different, same classes because we had classes together. But she was a soccer player and super athletic. And then she went to study sports therapy and she's now a vice principal. Whereas I was in theater and mock trial and very different lanes in that sense. But now we still keep in touch and she's about to have a baby at the start of July, which is so exciting. And every time I see her, no matter what time has passed, it feels as though we've never lost touch. But one thing that's helped us maintain that friendship throughout the years isn't really social media because she's not really active on it. And let's be honest, I use social media as a social tool, but it's also a business tool. So it gets a little bit confusing. But it's because we always invested in those friendships. So we've traveled together. We've gone to festivals together. If I go home, even if I'm only at home for 5 days because it's technically a work trip, there is always time for her. She is the one person that I have never not seen on any of my trips. And that is the one friendship. Whilst I don't have bad feelings toward anyone I went to high school with, I have so many positive memories from people that I went to high school with. She's the only one that I've kept, and I haven't felt the need to keep the other people in close proximity. But if I went home, there's people that I'd love to see. There's still people I check on and there's people that I respect. But I don't, out of guilt or out of moral obligation, feel as though I need to keep those connections when I know that I'm in a completely different place in my life and we would have very different lives. And Denise and I have very different lives. She's actually still on my phone as Dee's Nuts because that was her nickname in high school. But we have very different lives and we still keep in touch. So when I first moved to Australia, for the first 6 months were so hard for me because I was living in a share house in a West End and it was fun, right? Again, none of those friendships are friendships that I still have to this day because it was fun. It was transient. It was literally like, I don't think any of us were at the same point in our lives, but it was so much fun. It was kind of adult, like adult summer camp, really. Or maybe like a sorority slash fraternity of like rejects of life, because it was not like one person wanted to be an actor. There was like a chef who never did his laundry. It was random. And this was 2009, and I was paying $200 a week to live in a share house with 14 bedrooms that didn't have a front door, right? Baptism by fire, entry into the country. But then I went and I got a job at Supre. So, we always joke about like how Supre is my origin story, and it really is. So I got hired by Danny, who, funny enough, is now somewhat still involved in my life, even though we're not super close friends. She then introduced and added other people into my life who are my closest friends. So, like, really beautiful little introduction moment. And she's been responsible for multiple career moves throughout my life. But I got a job at Supre, and who was my store manager? The woman you now know as Christina Watson, or I'll call her Tin. And she is like she's one of my soulmates. Like, I can't describe her in any other way, shape, or form. This woman has seen me at my absolute best. She's seen me at my worst. She's seen me everywhere in between. She's seen me not shower for 5 days because I was in a horrible life state. She's seen me go through the worst amounts of loss in my life. And she has been like literally the definition of a soulmate to me. And I have a couple women like that in my life. And I like, it makes me like feel like a little bit emotional because I'm like, oh, what have I done to, deserve these people? But within that core group of Supre girls, that actually like was the catalyst for me for the friendship group that I really have to this day, who are my sisters. And you might look back at that and be like, oh, it was right place at right time. Not really. When I think about the group of people that were hired within that, and I actually can't say girlfriends because Guy was our door boy. So my best guy friend, who is now a lawyer, he's a partner. I'm sorry, he's not just a lawyer. He's a partner at a law firm. He was the security boy. And so how did we become really close? Because every Saturday morning I'd open the store and he'd be the only person on with me, because we needed to make sure that the little crackheads with the country road bags from private schools weren't stealing the gold leggings, which like that is actually a legitimate thing. And it was always the kids from the private schools. But like the people that we had there were all values aligned, right? So we were all university students who had been raised by parents who forced us to work, not just because like genuinely financially, like we actually had to work, right? None of us could have had any of the fun that we had without working, right? So our parents weren't going to give us everything, which like I want to be the parent that's able to give my child everything, but I'm going to instill in my child, like, if you want to get the things, you actually need to work for the things, because you need to understand the value of money. But I think the fact that we all had to work to get what we wanted, whether it's because we wanted an outfit every single weekend so that we could go to Hot Gossip, and God, I think this was like, there was even, what was the club? Anyways, club doesn't matter. But because we wanted to dance on a podium at a hip hop club in the Valley on a Saturday night, right? So we had that financial values alignment. We also then had really, really close ties to all of our families. But then there was the other thing where we were all using retail as a pathway to somewhere else. So every single person was a university student or was doing something that eventually was going to lead to something else, right? And if you think about that, those are values alignments across who we are as people. And that meant that there were like intrinsic things that like they're not behaviors that are really ever going to change. So in that, we are all in completely different fields, because again, this was a pathway for us. But we all have very similar values. And values, I think, are the place where you can have somebody who has a completely different life to you, but in your core, if you view friendships, money, relationships, family all very similarly, those are going to be the things that make the difference between that friendship and like those people really lasting in your life. And, you know, even within our core group of girls, like we treat things a little bit differently. But when I think about even the way that we all love with the same capacity. And Saturday, we actually had like a girls' wellness night. So it was me, Christina, Amber, and Alex, which, you know, bar a couple of people, like that is my core friendship circle. And we had like a wellness night, right? So we had massages, we had hour-long massages. We put the massage table into the room, right? We were all in the same room. So we were like naked together, disrupting each other's conversations, doing skincare, like, you know, having dinner. It was a very chaotic couple of hours. And most people would be like, why would you want to be having a massage in a room full of your friends? Well, one, we're comfortable enough for it. But it was actually just like such a great night. And we realized at one point in that night, even though we see each other every single weekend, we talk throughout the week, we are having 5 different conversations across 5 different platforms, none of us actually really understood what the other person did. So when you think about how do I make friends, I have so many friends in the industry that I love, and they are going to be friends that I keep. But my family, we actually don't, like, yeah, there was the origin story. But like one of the girls in the group Christina was like, I thought you did payroll. And she's like, yeah, everybody thinks I do payroll. I've never done payroll in my life. Right. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, I think she does social media, or I think she does this, right? Don't ask me to run a social media account for you. There was one time where I posted, I don't know if you saw it on TikTok. It was like a thing for Fate Estate. And then I had this like deathly background sound because I didn't understand that sometimes TikTok auto applies things. So like, but we love each other, and none of that, like those details don't really matter. And one of the things that really goes along with this with me is all of my best friendships, we treat each other like we date each other, right? Like I go to great restaurants with my girlfriends. We plan elaborate dates. I was supposed to go visit one of my girlfriends and stay the night, Friday night, but just some stuff came up and I couldn't get away from the laptop. Like it just was not going to be a thing, right? And she was up the Sunshine Coast. So I looked, and by the time I would have gotten to her, it would have been 7, 8 p.m. We were going to then leave the next morning. It was going to be like a 12-hour turnaround trip. I was wasted from the week. And then she had actually organized a surprise for me to be able to borrow the vehicle that I'm looking to purchase from the dealership so that I could experience for the weekend. So she had like phoned a friend to do that for me. But it was going to be a surprise. It was going to be cute. It was going to be romantic. This is one of the things that I will give men. Like, fuck, it probably sucks to be a man sometimes, because what are you going to do? Like, genuinely, what can you do? This weekend, I had like romantic date, dinner, Rhiannon, awesome. Unplanned, lots of martinis. Miranda was going to, have a BMW that I was going to walk or drive around in the weekend so that I could feel comfortable with my decision. I then had massages and chocolate and girl chat. I then had I then got to go to lunch. And I think it's one of the things where I'm not trying to sit here to be like, oh my God, my friends are the best. My friends actually are the best. But I think it's this thing of like, how do you find values aligned people? And then also, how do you make sure that you love those people with your full heart? Everybody knows that I'm really busy. My friends, I think, have a very reasonable expectation for how present I'm able to be when things are not urgent or are not life or death, right? If any of them messaged me and they were like, I need you now, I would drop work in a heartbeat if they actually needed me. The good thing is I don't have people in my life that need me to make them feel secure. Because again, that is a projection. That actually has nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. Because I have changed flights to come home for school parades. I have taken work off to go to dance competitions, right? I will take work off to go to swim lessons. I do anything I can to make sure that I am present, not only in my best friends' lives, but then also in the little people that call me auntie, because to them, like, I am their family. And I know that I have these friendships because it's not about the superficial, constant communication And anybody who puts that expectation on you, that's not a friend for you. That is a friend because they just like that you give them attention. And that's pretty toxic in itself. True friends, in my view, are people that you can do nothing with. And I know that feels very contradictory because I just talked about all the amazing things. But like, that's actually how Yentl and I realized that she's one of my soulmates as well. I mean, our story is that we ended up getting put on a holiday, which could have been really, really bad. Like, it there was a drunken conversation, a holiday was booked, a holiday was followed up. I then suddenly was stuck in the Barossa Valley with someone that I like knew that I was okay with, but I didn't know if she was going to be a friend of mine. We then realized that not only could we travel together, because it's a really big indicator of friendship, is do you like to travel in the same way? And if you don't like to travel in the same way, are you each independent enough and not needy enough to allow the other person to do what they want to do? But also, who do you like doing nothing with? The people that I love doing nothing with, driving, if I love to drive with you down to our destination, and if that is one of the most exciting things, you are my people. And Yenta was somebody who I'm like, wow, what's our favorite activity? We like to stay at home and rot on our phones, which isn't like a real thing, but it is a thing. It's more that conversation of, are you somebody that I can do nothing with, or are you somebody that I like just because things are exciting? To a lot of people, I am probably somebody that they like me because I'm exciting. And that's a huge compliment. I live such a fun life. But also that is where there's that like misdirect of, you need to find friendships where you love doing nothing with that person. You need to find friendships where you find people who will give you reciprocal value. And reciprocal value sounds very transactional, but it's about people showing up and being present in a way that you need them to show up. And I also think that you need people who are values aligned, who want the same things in life, who value the same things in life, who see money similarly, who see positivity similarly. I don't think religion is like an absolute necessary, needs to see it similarly, because even within my friendship circle, I think there's varied levels of faith, but then there's also a huge respect for, someone could be Muslim, someone could be Christian, someone could be agnostic, and like, there are still values in how you treat people and how you see people that all feel aligned across the group. And what I often see is people project the work that they haven't done on themselves on somebody else. So they will be not bad people, but they will be people who if you need validation from your friendship circle, you are not going to find the right friendship circle because you're not happy within yourself, and then you're seeking validation through somebody else. There's that like old conversation around, how are you going to love somebody if you don't love yourself? I think from a relationship view and from a self-worth view, I have gone through waves of the way that I love myself. And I think that has come through in my relationships. But in my friendships, I have always had so much security. In saying that, have I had shitty friendships? 1,000%. And it's funny because the OGs, the people who've been there from day one, will be like, I was really excited when that friendship started to fizzle, or like, I'm glad that you realized that they weren't really there for you. Because you're going to make bad choices, but instead of harping on the fact that like, oh fuck, they were a shitty friend, to me it's funny because I'm like, oh my God, do you remember when I was, friends with that person, and like, that was chaotic. And then that's all it is. It's like just a chapter, instead of feeling hard done by with that friend, because you know what? That friend that I wasn't really good for and they weren't good for me, they can go have friends elsewhere. There are 7+ billion people in this world. You will find your people. If you are somebody where you want to find new friends and you're trying to figure out, how do I find those friends? I think you need to kind of treat it like dating, like interject yourself, but also find people who you are attracted to from a values alignment, not just because they are a shiny thing. Because it is then going to end up being that like, they're not going to be that person that you want to do nothing with. And the person that you want to do nothing with is going to be that long-standing friend. The long friendships are built from the people who will help you move house. They are the people who you can travel with. They are the people that will take care of your babies. They will celebrate your highs. They will mourn your lows. Like, those are the people that you want to do life with. That's where, when I say that I have my soulmates, I genuinely have my people. And I know that not a single one of them are friends with me because of what I can offer or benefit from them. They are all friends with me because of the way that I love them and the way that I love their families. And they're all genuinely my family. I think the hardest part to get through this conversation is not the like shiny toy thing of like, my friends are so amazing. I think it's the, if you feel as though you cannot find the right group of friends, it might take a little bit of inner work from you in terms of what your expectations are of people. And, are you showing up for people because you want them to show up for you? Because that's the wrong reason to show up for people. You can't expect a tit for tat friendship. That doesn't mean that it's genuine, because there are going to be seasons where I show up unequivocally more for the people in my life because they need me at that time. And then there's also going to be the huge flip side of it. And I know there are times where they are pouring so much more into me than I have the capacity to pour into them. So with like anything in life, your intentions are, and like what you're putting in is going to be so relative to what you put out. And I think one of the really big portions of this is if you have people who will not stand by you when things are not as good, or you have people that are too quick to ask for things, then are those people actually the people who are your people? And the tough thing is maybe not. And breaking up with a friend, even if it's a quiet breakup and no one talks about it, it can be just as hard as breaking up a relationship because you love this person and they are part of your DNA and they are part of your life. But it's still something that ultimately like might need to happen. And I've had to go through friendship breakups that fucking suck. I also, on the flip side of that, have friendships where you go through waves. And the great thing is I know those friendships are genuine because sometimes we will joke about being really bad friends, like Carla was like my roll dog in the day. Again, kind of a Super origin story. She used to work at Super in Townsville. I worked at Super in Brisbane. Christina was both our manager. She introduced us during a single girl era. We went out to the R&B clubs every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We are at such different places in our life. She's about to have her second baby. She just is one of the most incredible people that I've ever met. And she is that person where if anyone needs anything, we could call each other in 10 seconds and we would be there and we would drop anything. But also like, I think we were stoked because we actually hung out 3 times in a year. And that was by far the most we'd done, because I think we probably went 2.5, 3 years of not even seeing each other and not interacting outside of Instagram. And never once was there that feeling of like, oh, we're not friends anymore. It was just the understanding of, we are in such different phases that sometimes it's not going to happen, and you only have so many hours in the day, so you're only going to be able to prioritize so many people. So how are you going to make that friendship work? A lot of my friendships that I know are going to be consistent friendships are those friendships where we like pull out the calendar and we're like, all right, when's it happening again? Right? Like I know my next walk with Atia is going to be in a couple of weeks because she's put it on the calendar so that we can see each other. And that isn't just for me, that's also for her, because what you diarize, you will prioritize. And that's just the truth of the matter. I really hope that everybody has friendships that are going to ultimately fill them up, because I think it is one of my favorite parts of life. And I'm so lucky that I have the friendships that I have. That was one thing my mom, like, we talk about her on and off the pod, like she's a little bit crazy, right? Like, she's a bit crazy. But she was a great friend. Even up until the day that she died, she was a great friend. And that was something that at her funeral, I realized I definitely got from her. And I'm sure that there would be people that are like, oh, she wasn't a very great friend, but also she can't love everybody with the same capacity. It's just not like a realistic thing. And I wonder how many people wanted to be friends with my mom because my mom was so much fun. My love for tequila shots, definitely got that from my mom. But at my mom's funeral, there were so many people where they were like, your mom changed my life because of X, Y, Z, or your mom was here for me during this, or your mom was here for me during this. And I was able to see the moments where my mom showed up for people who she knew needed her at that time in that certain perspective. And I'm sure that that's like a very normal thing, because most people are not going to someone's funeral and being like, oh, fuck, they're a bit of a shit. Like, it is going to be a positive sentiment. But I knew before her death that to her detriment, she prioritized friendships even probably over her own children sometimes. But it was nice to see that in those final months of life where maybe her children weren't able to be there for her because we weren't able to, like, keep in mind, I was in Australia and I had the conscious decision of like, do I get to see my mom in her final days or do I get to help my brother? And my decision was to help my brother because Adam was going to be who was left, and Adam is one of the most important men that will ever exist in my life, and I love him with every inch of my being. So I made that really tough decision of like, I'm not going to say goodbye to my mom because I need to support my brother. And my brother was trying, but my brother was 3.5 hours away and working full time and had 2 small kids under the age of 3. So I'm so glad that I know that in her final days, she was taken care of by friends. And that is because of what she put into those friendships. So it's never going to be a perfect story, but it is such a you get in what you put out. And if you can find the right people who are authentically aligned, that you are not friends with just because they're a shiny thing, or you're not friends with because you think that you want their life, and you're not nice to them because you think that you're going to get something back. I think that you can find people at any point in your life, because I know that I have found people that you've heard of, people that you've experienced. Like if I think about Gemma, or if I think about Miranda or Yentul, like those are 3 people that have come into my life all in the last 5 years. And I'm like, how did I survive without you? And a lot of that was right place at right time. But also a lot of those people are that instant connection of, oh my God, I've known you, even though I didn't know you. And you're so values aligned. So I hope that you find people who are values aligned as well. And like one of the ideas I have is to actually like do like a little like friendship speed dating night, because I always joke that like I love my birthday because it becomes the United Nation of friends, because everybody who is my friend is forced to become friends on my birthday because you have to, because it's my birthday. But I don't know, I think that I've got the greatest people, so like why didn't I share them more? And then I also love when my friends become friends. That is something that really excites me, because I think, again, it amplifies that concept of being aligned and having the right people in your corner. Because if your friends then become friends, like I'm obsessed with Renee, who's one of Yentul's best friends, and we've become really good friends. And it's because we have this like commonality and common bond and common alignment. So I challenge you to find people who you are friends with, not because you're from the same place, not because you are, both knowing like the same group of people, but because to your core and to your values, you are the same group of people, because that outweighs every other metric of an origin story of how you find somebody. Have a fantastic week. We are going to be announcing an event. And I'd love to see you there. And it could be an opportunity for you to meet your people. There will be more details online. And as always, like if you can share, like, subscribe, that's kind of what helps me bring these little life chats to you. Have a great week.